Hi, ready for another installment of the Athena Protocol, Chapter 16, page 199. Jessie has just escaped from Gregory's abandoned hospital, and now she's lying in the dirt in the woods, feeling sorry for herself. Chapter 16. It's been only a couple of minutes, but I've pulled myself together, helped by the realization that the longer I knelt in the dirt feeling sorry for myself, the more likely it was that I'd get dragged back to that hospital by Gregory's thugs. A pale dawn is beginning to wash across the edge of the sky. Just the promise of light makes everything better, as if it can brush away all the shadows, all the nightmares that choke you when the world is drenched in blackness. I've stopped to check several times, but there's no one following me now. Exhausted, I hoist myself up into a tree yet again, just to get a sense of where I am. My arms feel like lead. Hala's biceps must be as strong as steel to make climbing that much look so easy. This time, I'm rewarded with a line of roofs, red tiled against the gray-blue dawn sky. I clamber down from the tree and walk toward them. My mind is a mess, replaying everything that's happened. Already, Gregory's party feels like it happened a lifetime ago. What are you doing? My thoughts are with Dasha and the other girls I left behind. I need to get to the Athena team with everything I know. The roofs belong to a little row of houses sitting on their own in a ramshackle mess. Curtains are still drawn, and each house has a small car in front of it. One of the cars is missing a tire, but the others look decent. I make my choice before I emerge out of the trees opposite and hurry over the road. First, I go for the chain link fence that sits to the side of the last house in the row. I rip off a small section of loose chain and force it into a straight line with a curve at the end. Then I move quietly back to the cars. The oldest car is a pale blue job, some local brand that I've never heard of, and it's so old that it locks with a key in the door, not a remote. Which makes it relatively easy for me to pull away the rubber seal on the window, slide the fence metal between the window and the door, and pull up the lock. Once I'm in, I get to play with wires again, but hot wiring a car of this age is much easier than defusing a bomb, and it takes me no time. And I'm away. In the rearview mirror, I glance back, but no one seems to have noticed that it's gone yet. I don't feel great about it, because they probably need it to get to work, and I'm pretty sure they don't have money to sort out a replacement, but for now, I can't see another way to get clear of here. The car handles like a bad shopping trolley, but I do my best, and stop at a tired roadside convenience store, where I buy some antiseptic and bandages to stick around my wound. The place is manned by a guy who hardly bothers to look up from a movie playing on an old TV. As I'm leaving, I notice an old payphone on the wall. Using the coins I just got as change, I call Peggy on her personal mobile. It rings just once before she answers. "I'm coming to see you right now." "What's happened? Are you all right?" Her voice is thick with sleep. I must have woken her up. "There's a lot I need to tell you." I won't say more on an unsecured line, and Peggy gets that. "I'll tell our security guys to look out for you." I hang up. The car takes 2 tries to start, but it coughs to life finally, and I'm off again, heading toward the house where Peggy, Kit, and Caitlin are staying. My head is pounding. While I drive, I worry about the girls in the hospital, but I also think about Paulina. Earlier tonight, I started to forget that she was a means to an end, and what I felt when I thought about her was excitement. But now it's uneasiness that rises to the surface. What does she know? What does she choose not to think about? But I'm pretty sure that no one knows about Gregory's new plan to send people off to be slaughtered for their organs. I imagine a conversation where I open Paulina's eyes to the true business that her father is running. Would she do anything to stop it? Would she even believe me? And if she tried to stop it, would Gregory ever listen to her? It's embarrassing how bizarre your thoughts get when you've had no sleep. It's a relief when I pull up outside the gated house. A slim guy in a black suit approaches. In this town, almost anyone in a large home has security, so it doesn't look unusual. And if you're up to what Athena is up to, you certainly don't want any uninvited guests strolling in. I spend 5 seconds looking for the button to open the driver's window before I realize I have to wind it down with a handle. How retro. Impatient, I wait as the guard consults his phone, then looks back at me and waves me through. Peggy must have sent him a photo. Another thin guy patrols the other side of the gate. Neither of them looks very strong, but at least they're armed. Maybe Gregory had first pick of all the wrestlers, boxers, and weightlifters around here. I pull up and notice Hala's bike parked in front of the door. I touch the engine as I pass it. Still warm. Maybe Peggy called her in just now. As soon as I'm shown into the kitchen of the house, I feel like crying. After a night spent with criminals, being chased by armed men, and trapped in that hellish hospital, the sight of this big, clean kitchen and Peggy standing over a coffee pot by the stove makes me feel grateful. For what, I'm not sure. Just that I get to be here, I suppose, when Dasha and the other girls I left behind don't. Peggy turns the instant she hears me. Her eyes look tired, but her hair and clothes are immaculate, like she woke up hours ago. We look at each other for a moment, then she comes toward me quickly and grasps me in a hug. She smells like shower gel and that perfume she always wears. I don't know why, but I feel tears rise up, and I force them back down, staying in the hug a bit too long till I've pulled myself together. When Peggy moves back, she examines my face, then my arm, which is seeping a bit of blood through the bandages. "What happened?" she asks. She pours coffee and puts on some toast. I sit at the high counter, hesitating. There's so much to tell her that I don't really know where to start. And yet, I do. Gregory's not trafficking these girls to work the streets, or even for eggs. He's planning to take all of their organs at once. Peggy stares at me blankly as if I just rattled off an explanation in Japanese. "How do you know that?" My mother's voice behind me is a surprise. I turn around. Kit doesn't sound angry or accusing, just worried. Her hair's pulled back in a loose ponytail and she's wearing sweatpants and a fitted souvenir t-shirt from one of her own past concert tours. Behind her, Caitlin appears. She's also in sweats, but she looks like someone who just woke up, while Kit looks like an off-duty superstar. "I was there a couple of hours ago, in his abandoned hospital." There's a general gasp from everyone in the room, and again, I feel tears coming up. Maybe it's just too fresh, or maybe it's because I haven't slept. It's Peggy who moves first, coming over and putting an arm around me. Kit moves into the room, closer to us. Caitlin still lingers near the door, and behind her, the outline of Hala hangs back farther still. "It's okay," Peggy says. "Take a minute." But I don't feel there's a minute to waste. At a nod from Kit, Caitlin uses an iPad to dial Lee into the conversation. Then, taking a breath, I explain about Katerina's tip-off. What happened in the tower blocks. How I got caught and driven in with the other girls and the boys. And most important, what I found in the lab about the plans to take all the organs from all the captives and send them to Victory Clinic. As I finish, I hand over the papers I found and the flash drive with the downloaded information. Shh! So sorry. A moment of silence fills the kitchen while the horror of this sinks in. Slaughtering innocent people to cut wait times for organs? Who's buying them? Peggy asks, appalled. He must make at least $1 million a girl, says Caitlin quietly. Kit just stares at me, reaching for my hand. She holds it so tightly that, for a moment, she scares me. "You could have been one of them." Her voice is a whisper. "I'm not," I remind her. I have to say it again just to calm her down. "But those donations are due to start tonight. We have to do something quickly." "Can we break in?" Kit asks Caitlin. To her credit, Caitlin looks to me for clarification. It was me in there, not her. "There are a lot of armed guards, 14, 15 at least. They'll be on high alert after I escaped." "Security cameras?" Caitlin asks. "No, they probably don't want any record of what goes on in there." "Then maybe," Caitlin starts, but Peggy shakes her head. It's too dangerous. 3 of you against Gregory's whole army? And even if you found a way to pull it off, it won't stop Gregory from starting over somewhere else with a new headquarters and new victims. Peggy turns this over in her mind. I need to see Alex this morning. She picks up the flash drive and documents. This should help him, she says. Can Alex move that fast? Kit asks. Peggy nods. If he doesn't, and it goes public or these girls die, it would be disastrous for the Serbian government. As justice minister, it would probably end his career. A moment of quiet descends while we all think. Now I can smell that toast, and I realize how hungry I am. Helping myself to a piece, I slather it with some jam that's sitting on the counter and wolf it down. What about the SD card? I ask while I chew. Caitlin nods. You hit the jackpot. It has the info we need. Lots of dirt on lots of politicians, police, judges. I'll show you. She nods toward the living room, and I'm getting up to join her when Kit's voice interrupts us. Jess, where did you find it? The SD card. In Paulina Pavlik's room. I look away from my mother's keen gaze as I explain. Amber's tip about the decoder working on picture files made me realize. But how did you know it would be there? I hesitate. To be honest, I don't know how to explain how I knew, or what I was ever doing in Paulina's room, but I feel like Kit's judging me anyway. That SD card was a birthday present from Gregory, and as far as Paulina knows, they're just pictures of her mother. Kit moves toward me, into my space, in fact. What? I ask, defensive. Paulina Pavlik, she says. How do you even know her? How did you get into the party? How reckless are you? I'm guessing these are all rhetorical questions, so I keep my mouth shut. I see Peggy give Kit a look to ease off, and my mother takes a breath and drops her voice. Jess, Paulina is Gregory's daughter. You can't trust her. You can't get close to her. That last bit feels like it carries a double meaning. Certainly, the way Kit says it makes both Caitlin and Peggy look down, and Hala moves away from the doorway where she's been standing, listening, all of which makes me furious with Kit. It doesn't matter if I trust her or not, I say. I managed to steal that card from her because she trusted me. I look at my mother defiantly, but she only seems to be waiting for me to justify some more. But there's no way to explain why my gut tells me that Paulina is not the same kind of person as Gregory. Why I like her, and yes, even trust her enough to feel guilty about using her. So I don't try. Great concert, I say instead. That throws her off. Thanks. I sang Baby Mine for you. Except you didn't know I'd be there. Awkward silence. But I don't regret it. It bugs me the way she pretends she sang it for me, and the way she's so sure that Paulina is tainted by association with her father. I turn away and follow Caitlin into the living room. It's a vast space with very modern white furniture everywhere, a step up from my own pest-infested quarters. Caitlin settles into a chair in front of a massive flat screen, and Hala paces around in jeans, a shirt, and a scowl. Her biker jacket is thrown onto one of the white armchairs. Her eyes meet mine, and her face lightens a bit. Are you okay? She asks. Yeah, thanks. We both look away from each other. Back in the kitchen, there's an undertone of murmuring that must be Kit and Peggy, and Lee, connected by video, deciding what to do next. Meanwhile, on the screen, Amber and Thomas gaze at us from the Athena office in London. It's 5 a.m. there, and he is still in a suit. They must have pulled an all-nighter decoding that SD chip. It's here, Caitlin says, glancing across at me. The information that Gregory has on all his blackmailed friends, embedded in the corners of each photo. I've run a number of copies of the files here, remotely, says Amber, in case we forget how efficient she is. Caitlin taps the screen where a distortion is clear on the lower edge of the photo. A small window opens off the distortion, revealing the information, and more images attached to it. Dates, times, tiny thumbnails of a chubby older man, presumably some judge or politician, with a young woman. Both Hala and I lean in to look. But for a moment, despite myself, my eyes are drawn to the main image. The color's faded, and it shows a little girl, a beautiful kid, maybe 6 years old, sitting on her mother's lap, arms flung around her neck. Paulina, as a child. She looks at the camera but peers over her mother's arm shyly, clinging to her for dear life. The woman's eyes are closed, enjoying the hug, and her mouth is curved in a gentle smile. I make myself look away, and my eyes catch on Caitlin. She's watching me as I take in the photo. I turn aside, ignoring the next photo that Caitlin brings up. Instead, I look at Amber, and I decide to start off on the right note by saying sorry for breaking into my lockbox. Not interested in your fake apologies, she says, crisply cutting me off. That opens up a gap in the conversation. Meanwhile, Thomas's glance shifts to Hala. Marhaba, he says, which is hello in Arabic. Very smooth. Hala looks surprised but returns the greeting. Thomas is smiling like an idiot. At the doorway, Peggy calls out to me and I trudge back to the kitchen. Peggy closes the door behind me and pours me a fresh cup of coffee. Kit is sitting by the counter. Lee is on video, her face filling the screen on the tablet that Peggy has propped beside her. We owe you a great debt, Peggy says, which sounds good. But at the same time, she continues, Athena can't run like this. That sounds bad. And Kit's still not looking at me. I take a sip of scalding coffee and wait for Peggy to continue. You could have gotten yourself killed earlier, trapped in that place with armed men, ready to murder on a whim. The girls are too precious. They're trained not to shoot them. That's beside the point, Peggy says sharply. And getting into Gregory's home under false pretenses? Did you think about what he would do to you if he figured it out? Peggy, everything we do could end badly, I point out. If we worry about every little detail, we'll be paralyzed. Now Kit pipes up. We have to worry about details, Jesse. We have to agree on a plan. There has to be some consensus, some government of this organization. Can't you see that? If I hadn't ended up in that abandoned hospital last night, hundreds of girls would be dead by tonight. Kit looks away, because I'm right, and she can't argue it. Peggy pours her coffee down the sink, carefully. Then she spends a minute putting the cup into a dishwasher, calming down. You should have come to us with the information when you got it from Katerina, Lee says from the screen. I didn't know if this lead was any good or if Katerina could be trusted, and you dismissed me when I came to you the first time with what I had on Victory Clinic and Lovett. You thought it was too thin. Peggy sighs gently, a slight raising of her eyebrows serving as a small acknowledgement of my predicament. Jesse, the issue is we're trying to bring to justice people who get away with terrible things, like trafficking, that no one else does anything about. But nobody polices us, Peggy continues. We have to be sure we don't abuse that power, and sticking together as a team, making group decisions, is one way to avoid that. I take a turn at the dishwasher, putting my plate and cup away, keeping my mouth shut, but not for long, because I can see where this is going. You needed me to finish this mission, I said. I got you Gregory's blackmail files, and I found out what he's really up to. I'm part of this team, and I want to know I'm back permanently. Peggy looks at me seriously, then her eyes move to Lee on the screen. I'm against it, Lee continues. For the reasons Peggy just outlined. We're already a rogue agency. We can't have a rogue agent. It's chaos. That's a blow. I turn to Peggy. You agree? I ask. Peggy shakes her head. No, I want you back, with the caveat that you agree to stick to orders, or you're out. I nod. I get it. I can try harder. I'm not an idiot. And the truth is, I don't like being that person, the one who could kill a handcuffed man. It's not a place inside me that I ever want to go back to. But there's still tension in the room. My gaze moves to Kit in the corner, the deciding vote. Her eyes flicker down, away from me, as she shakes her head. I don't think you're ready, Jess. People don't change overnight. My shoulders slump and my eyes close for a moment. Behind the lids, they feel gritty and exhausted. My own mother, the woman who asked me to come and work with Athena, is the one pushing me out now. Talk about betrayal. The frustration that rises is strong and fills me with sudden energy. But I don't want to prove them right, to show them that I'm out of control. And I definitely don't want Kit to know how much she's hurt me by turning against me. And after everything I've just done. In the silence, a text pings on Peggy's phone. She glances at it. Alex will see me in an hour, Peggy says. Jesse, why don't you take a few days rest? Goodness knows you need it. But her voice sounds distant. My head is throbbing from the effort of pushing back the anger, the exhaustion, the worry about Dasha and the others. I turn to go. Behind me, Kit says something, but I can't hear it, and I don't really want to. I'm dimly aware that Peggy is advising her, holding her back from following me. The front door lies across a double-height hallway that is an expanse of polished granite flooring, and it takes me forever to cross it. Outside, I take a breath. The clouds are giving way to some morning sun that filters through onto my face. I close my eyes for a few minutes and just feel the warmth and softness on me. And then I hear Hala's voice carrying out into the morning air from a window to my right. I wish she would have stood up for me just now when Kit was hassling me about Paulina instead of staying on the sidelines. She's obviously on the phone, and she's speaking too quietly for me to make out much of what she's saying. But again, there's that feeling of stress in her voice, like she had when I overheard her talking to her brother. I take a couple of steps toward the window. Silent steps. I know, you have to be careful. Then something in Arabic. I'm sure Hala becomes aware of me moving out here, because she hangs up really quickly. Whatever is going on with her is a mystery, and with things the way they are between us, I can't even talk to her about it. What could her brother want? Is she in trouble? Is he? I walk back to the driveway toward my stolen blue car. As I open the door, I glance back and see Hala's eyes watching me from her window. We look at each other for a long moment, and, on an impulse, I raise my hand in a half wave, hoping for a smile, a look, even just a nod, but she turns away and draws the curtains, blocking me out. I'll go ahead and read Chapter 17. Chapter 17, page 213. I drive the blue car back to where I parked the motorcycle last night. Even though it's in the center of the most crime-ridden part of the city, it's still there, so I park the car on the side of the road and switch over to the motorcycle. I don't want the local police tracking that stolen vehicle right to my door. I go back to my apartment. It's funny how quickly you can adapt to a routine, to the same place, and get attached to it. Even though I've come from a magnificent house that's clean and light and airy, it's a relief to be back here in a room that's crummy, but is just mine, where I don't have to answer to anyone. In the apartment, I take a long, hot shower, then lie down. I'm asleep before my head touches the pillow, and it's like being drugged. No dreams, no memories, only black, solid sleep. I wake up hard. I wake up hard with a gasp for air as I sit up, confused. My hand grasps for my phone to check the time. Only half an hour has passed. The first thing I remember is what happened at the house. Just now, that Kit refused to let me back on the team. Then I remember Dasha in the hospital, and then Gregory's party, and Paulina. While I dress, I look through the net curtains at my window. The gallery door is propped open, and someone's moving inside. On the street, Paulina's Mercedes is parked. It's not quite 9 a.m. I would have expected her to be sleeping till noon after her father's celebrations, which didn't seem to be slowing down at all by the time I left. Just knowing there's someone around to talk to lifts my spirits. But first, I head to the pharmacy 2 blocks away and pick up some antiseptic cream and some big Band-Aids. Back in my room, I clean up that cut on my arm. Then I roll down the sleeves of my shirt, buttoning the cuffs so none of it can be seen. When I walk into the gallery, music is playing. There's the aroma of fresh coffee and a wash of sunlight over the walls, and Paulina is alone, sitting at a table, typing on an iPad. She's more casually dressed than I've ever seen her. Faded jeans, a slim white t-shirt, and it's a relief. I can relate to her more like this than in her party gear, surrounded by her father's fake friends. Of course, she sees me the moment I'm at the door, and she doesn't move at first, except to look up from the screen. She just sits there, watching me, with a slight smile, and her calm gaze makes me self-conscious. I glance away to the flat-screen TV on the wall, playing a muted loop of local news coverage. "Jessie," she says at last, "I'm so happy to see you." That feels pretty amazing. I can't remember the last time anyone used my name except as a preface to telling me off or giving me advice. Such easy words to say. I'm happy to see you. But how often do we actually say them to each other? She walks up to me, pulls me toward her, and kisses my cheek, and it feels kind and welcoming, and everything bad seems to fade away, for a moment at least. Paulina motions me to sit down while she moves behind the counter and makes a coffee for me. I look around at the photographs on the walls, at the morning light gleaming off the polished glass of the windows, at the smooth, clean marble floor. All I can think about is how different it is to the abandoned hospital, and that her father's businesses have paid for this place. Your macchiato. A cup of expertly foamed coffee is placed in front of me. I watch Paulina's manicured fingers on the saucer. I look up to her perfect mouth and her eyes that shift easily between blue and green. She's so beautiful, and I wonder who she really is. What is it? She asks me. I shake my head. Nothing. You look tired. I had nightmares, I say. She doesn't need to know I was awake through all of them. I couldn't sleep for a long time after you left, she says. I wait for her to explain, and she smiles briefly and looks down, away from my gaze. I kept looking at everyone at the party through your eyes, like an outsider, even my father and his friends. They were still playing cards this morning. I couldn't stand the noise, the vulgar jokes. They're so... She doesn't complete the sentence, but a flick of her head suggests her dissatisfaction. I don't imagine it's my job to join in the critique of Gregory or his guests, so I stay quiet and just watch Paulina, but her eyes are still cast down and she's frowning, like she's struggling for words. When she does speak, her voice is so quiet I have to lean in to catch the words. I know we only just met, she says, but you feel like the most real thing in my life right now. I smile. I can't help it. There's a touch of red at the top of her cheekbones that makes me think she might actually mean what she says. My life is so complicated, Jessie. I wish I could explain it to you. Her hand is on the table, really close to mine, and her fingers move just slightly, enough to touch mine gently. At that touch, it's like everything else in the world stops existing. Slowly, she leans into me, a little nearer, and then her eyes are on my mouth. Her lips are moving closer, till she brushes my mouth with her own. And someone arrives at the door, one of her waiters, I think. My heart is already pounding so hard that I'm startled by the sight of another person standing there, but Paulina is unfazed. Smoothly, without any stiffness or sense of being caught in the moment, she turns and walks over to the door. She has a whole exchange with the guy, laughing, joking, and he comes in and goes to the back to start work. Meanwhile, I look up at the TV screen, blinking, trying to recover, trying to regain my balance. Alex Uchik is on the screen. It's not a live broadcast, clearly, but a recent report. Shots of Alex passionately addressing an adoring crowd, intercut with images of men being arrested and police cars outside a rundown address. Paulina comes back to the table. I didn't realize the time, she says apologetically. Sorry we were interrupted. As I think about what we were doing when we were interrupted, I feel embarrassed, and I look up at the TV again as a way to break the spell. Paulina follows my glance to the screen. Who's this guy? I ask, trying to make conversation, struggling to find a space in my head where I can think more clearly. Uchik? She says. He's a fraud. Looks like he's cleaning up Belgrade, I say. Paulina gives a short laugh. Are you kidding? I look at her, keeping my tone as relaxed as possible, but my heart has plunged to my shoes. What do you mean? Uchik cares about only one thing. What? Panic rises. Money. The guys he arrests are the ones who won't pay him enough. He's the worst kind, pretending to care about corruption. Paulina gets up again and walks behind the counter, because now her mobile phone is ringing inside her bag. I follow her because she can't be right about Alex, but I need to make sure. How do you know? He's always trying to squeeze my father for money in his nightclubs, she says, matter of fact, and he always gets paid in cryptocurrency, one of the smaller coins, Alexa. She rummages in her bag for the phone. I remember the name because it's so close to his name. I know about Alexa. It's used a lot on the dark web, never has to show up in the usual online crypto wallets, and is only usable with a printed key. Even PDF keys self-destruct after a set time. Could I have missed something when trawling Alex's computer? I remember finding crypto trades, but nothing huge, and I thought he was just speculating. Please, Jessie, don't have messed this up. Fear sticks in a congealed lump in the base of my stomach as I think about Peggy. Please don't let Peggy be in trouble. Meanwhile, Paulina has answered her phone, and something is clearly wrong. She speaks very quickly in Serbian. The agitated voice at the other end undoubtedly belongs to Gregory. While she speaks, I take out my mobile and text Peggy. Careful with Alex. Danger. J. I add my initial to the end because the stealth phone won't show up as mine. I don't know what to think or what danger I expect her to actually be in, but this whole thing has a bad feel to it. When I think about Alex and Peggy having dinner together the other night, the way she trusts him, maybe Paulina is wrong. Maybe Gregory spun her a line about how terrible Alex is. But I need to find a way to leave so I can look into this. Luckily for me, it looks as if Pauline is heading out in a hurry. She hangs up the phone, switches off the TV, and puts her bag over her shoulder. Her face is filled with stress. What's wrong? My father found something missing in his office, she says. I need to go back to the house. What's missing? Money? I say, like I have no idea. She shakes her head, and then she stops in her tracks. I don't want to leave you, she says. I glance at my phone, where there has been no response from Peggy to my text. I'm itching to get out of here. We both head to the door. Let's meet later, I say. Back here? She nods eagerly, touching my hand with her own, briefly. I watch her get into the car, then I head for my motorcycle. On the way, I text Peggy again, then call her, but there's no answer. As I sit astride the bike, I try Amber. I was just going home to sleep, she answers. Is it urgent? I need Alex's address. I'm not authorized to give you anything. Peggy's in danger. Then I'll alert Caitlin. Amber, there's no time. Hesitation. I try again. Will you forgive yourself if something happens? I hear her tapping a keyboard. Where are you? Paulina's gallery. Link me to the GPS on your other phone and head north, she says. I'll get you there. The end of chapter 17. Say bye, Ricky. Bye-bye.